"Can I help you, miss?" he asked, his smile tight, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. He stepped in front of her like a security gate. "This branch has protocols. You can't just walk in off the street." She didn't blink. "I didn't walk in off the street," she said. "I walked in through the front door. My door." He laughed lightly, the way people do when they think you're bluffing. "And what exactly do you think you're here for?" She pulled a document from her satchel, neatly folded, perfectly dry. "To remind you," she said coolly, "who signs your paycheck." The rain was relentless. It drummed against the polished windows of Dawson First National Bank, turning the city sidewalks into reflective glass. Outside, umbrellas bobbed in traffic like black jellyfish, and suited professionals marched briskly with their heads down, avoiding puddles and strangers. Inside, it was pristine. Marble floors gleamed under golden chandeliers. Mahogany counters lined the open-plan lobby, where tellers tapped behind reinforced glass and soft classical music hummed just above the clatter of keyboards. Everyone inside the bank looked like they belonged in a magazine ad. Pressed shirts, tailored suits, designer heels. It was a sanctuary of polished wealth. Then she walked in. The glass doors hissed open, and every head in the lobby instinctively turned, not because of who she was, but because of who she wasn't. She wore a plain gray trench coat, wrinkled from the storm and damp across the shoulders. Her boots were worn, soles caked with city sludge. Her curly hair was damp and frizzy, the hood of her coat clinging awkwardly to her back. There was no makeup on her face, no glint of jewelry. A battered leather satchel hung from her shoulder. She looked invisible, but not to Martin Gates. From behind the glass of his sleek corner office, Martin spotted her instantly. His jaw tensed. He was a man who could clock a threat to his image within seconds, and this woman, this soaked, unannounced visitor, didn't fit his curated ecosystem of wealth and status. He stepped out from behind his desk, cutting through the lobby with all the grace of someone used to being listened to. His smile was tight, rehearsed. His $700 loafers tapped across the marble floor like a ticking clock. "Excuse me, ma'am," he called out, positioning himself between her and the main desk. "Are you lost? This branch doesn't allow unregistered visitors during business hours." She paused, met his eyes, and raised a single eyebrow. "I'm not lost," she said flatly. "I'm here on business." Martin didn't miss a beat. He glanced at her coat, then at her boots, then at the scuffed satchel. The corner of his mouth twitched amusement, disdain, maybe both. "If you're here to make a deposit or speak to a teller," he said, his voice sharp with implied authority, "you'll need to use the public branch downtown. This location caters to a different tier of clientele." A woman near the counter turned slightly, trying not to look too interested. A man in a tailored pinstripe suit smirked over his shoulder. One of the tellers frowned but didn't speak. The gray-coated woman didn't move. "This location?" she echoed. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, hands clasped politely in front of him. "We've had some issues with loitering. Protocol requires discretion with foot traffic. I'm sure you understand." She stared at him for a long moment, as if studying a puzzle. Then, without another word, she reached into her satchel. The nearby security guard stiffened. Martin's eyes narrowed, but instead of a weapon, she pulled out a crisp envelope. She extended it to him without flinching. "You may want to read this before you finish that sentence," she said. Martin took it with visible reluctance, clearly expecting some baseless complaint or wild claim he could dismiss with corporate jargon. Then he opened it. His face changed. His eyes darted across the top of the letterhead. "Noble Holdings," in bold serif type. He read the first line, again, then the second. Then he looked up at her. "You're Amelia Dawson." She nodded once. The name hit the room like a dropped chandelier behind the front desk. One of the tellers gasped softly. A customer's phone slipped from his hand and clattered on the tile. Martin's throat worked as he tried to recover. "I didn't realize clearly," she said coldly. The security guard took a cautious step back. Amelia reached up and slowly unfastened her coat. Underneath, she wore a simple navy pantsuit. Soaked, yes, but tailored, elegant, expensive, in a quiet way. The kind of elegance people often missed because they weren't trained to see power unless it screamed. "I came here unannounced," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby like a gavel, "to see how this branch treated people who weren't wearing $1,000 watches. People who didn't walk in wrapped in prestige." Martin stepped forward, voice hushed. "Ms. Dawson, please." If I'd known. She stepped past him. "But, you didn't know," she said, louder now, "because you didn't ask. You assumed, you dismissed, you judged, in full view of your staff, your clients, and me." The silence was suffocating. Amelia turned to face the room. "For the record, I'm not here to open an account. I'm not here to beg for a loan. I own this bank. I sign your paychecks, and Mr. Gates here just gave me everything I needed to justify a complete personnel review. Martin paled. A young teller whispered to her colleague, wide-eyed, and somewhere near the back of the room. An older gentleman in overalls who had been ignored at the front desk just 20 minutes earlier slowly smiled. The silence in the bank lobby was thick enough to cut with a blade. Martin Gates stood frozen, the document trembling slightly in his manicured hand. A bead of sweat appeared at his temple despite the air-conditioned chill of the building. He read the name again, this time with slow, painful clarity. Amelia Dawson, chairwoman, owner the Dawson, the woman he'd just attempted to eject from the premises. His lips parted, then closed again like a man trying to recall how to breathe underwater. Ms. Dawson, he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. I am, Amelia said, her voice calm but cold, clipped like a judge passing sentence. She pulled off her rain-slicked coat and draped it over her arm with slow, deliberate control. Beneath it, her tailored navy blue pantsuit was soaked at the hems, but elegant nonetheless, not flashy, powerful in its restraint. Her presence shifted the gravity in the room. You should have said something, Martin stammered. His eyes darted toward the security guard standing awkwardly by the door, then toward the front desk, where one of the tellers pretended to look busy on her computer. Amelia raised an eyebrow, said, What, exactly? That I own this building. That I could have you removed in a heartbeat. Martin opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was no correct answer. I walked in as a stranger, Amelia continued, on purpose, to see how this branch conducts itself without titles, introductions, or press releases. I wanted the truth, and I got it. Martin was visibly sweating now. His hand dropped the letter back into its envelope as if it had burned him. I am terribly sorry. I didn't realize your appearance, Amelia cut in sharply. Be very careful what you say next, Mr. Gates. That stopped him cold. She turned and looked around the room. The customers, once whispering behind manicured hands, were now respectfully quiet. The mother with her teenage son gave her a sheepish nod. The older man in the corner, who'd been ignored for the last 10 minutes, was watching her with quiet admiration. Amelia turned back to Martin. Tell me something. Would you have treated me differently if I had arrived in a Bentley and diamonds? Martin choked on the first syllable, then sighed. Yes, probably. Then at least you're honest. Arrogant, prejudiced, but honest. He flinched. Amelia stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. Do you know why I chose this branch for my unannounced visit? He shook his head. Because of the complaints. Dozens of them. Customers who said they were treated like second-class citizens, ignored, talked down to, humiliated. My office forwarded them to you. Do you remember what you said in your response? Martin's face turned a shade paler. I said they weren't credible, isolated incidents. You called them exaggerations. Amelia's tone was sharp enough to draw blood. And now I'm one of them, she continued. Humiliated, profiled, treated like a trespasser, and I guarantee you, this will not be an isolated incident for you. Martin looked like he might be sick. Please, Ms. Dawson, this is all a misunderstanding. No, she said firmly. It's not. She stepped back and addressed the entire room. For those of you watching, I apologize for the interruption. I am Amelia Dawson, chairwoman and majority owner of Dawson First National Bank. I came here today without fanfare or appointment to see how regular people are treated by this branch. What I witnessed was unacceptable. There was a stunned silence. Then, slowly, applause. It started with the elderly man in the corner. Then the teenage boy. Even a teller behind the counter offered a quiet clap. Amelia turned back to Martin. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. I'll be speaking with HR and corporate legal to discuss the formalities. A new branch manager will be named by tomorrow. His jaw dropped. You're firing me now in front of everyone. I'm holding you accountable, she corrected. You humiliated me in public. Now you're learning what consequences feel like. In public, Martin looked around helplessly, his authority visibly unraveling. You can't do this. I already have. Amelia turned toward the security guard. Please escort Mr. Gates out of the building. Make sure he doesn't access any systems or files on the way. The guard nodded, visibly relieved to be following her orders instead of Martin's. The ex-manager was led out, shoulders sagging. Amelia turned to the receptionist. Send word to my office. I'll be using the upstairs conference room. Schedule an emergency meeting with all staff 30 minutes. and contact regional. I want full access to employee evaluations and incident reports. The receptionist nodded quickly, her fingers already flying across the keyboard. Before heading upstairs, Amelia paused. She scanned the lobby again. People who had once judged her by a wet coat and messy hair now looked at her with a mix of respect and maybe a bit of fear. But it wasn't pride or satisfaction in her eyes, it was disappointment. This wasn't the first time she'd been underestimated, but it was supposed to be the last time it happened here. She turned and walked toward the elevator, her heels clicking crisply against the marble floor. Not a sound was heard except for that echo. By the time the doors closed behind her, the bank felt like a different building. And everyone left standing in the lobby knew they would never look at a nobody the same way again. The conference room on the second floor of Dawson First National was a cold, glass-walled chamber with a view of the city skyline, usually reserved for investor meetings or high-profile clients. But today, it was filled with tension thick enough to choke on. Martin Gates stood near the head of the long, polished table, pale and fidgeting. He kept glancing toward the elevator, as if hoping someone might come in and stop this. But no one would. Not today. On the other side of the table sat Amelia Dawson, dry now, her trench coat folded neatly beside her. She was no longer the anonymous woman in the lobby. She was the storm they hadn't seen coming. She opened a slim leather folder and laid out a row of documents like cards in a high-stakes game of poker. I didn't just walk into this branch to test your courtesy, Mr. Gates, she began, voice calm but cutting. I came here with results. Cold, hard, verifiable data. Martin swallowed. He had worked in finance for 16 years. Nothing ever scared him until now. Amelia flipped over the first document. This is a report compiled by my internal ethics auditing team. Over the past 4 months, they've conducted 63 anonymous visits to this branch. Each visit recorded in detail the interaction with staff, including timestamps, video evidence, and survey results. She slid the report across to the regional director, who had joined via video call on a large monitor mounted to the far wall. He stared down at the stack, silent. Here's what we found, she continued, voice growing firmer. Out of those 63 visits, 41 involved visible bias or discrimination. Martin lifted his eyes. Bias. Amelia stared at him coldly. Yes, customers who were not white, who wore lower income attire, who were elderly, disabled, or otherwise non-affluent were treated with indifference, suspicion, or outright dismissal. Just like I was. Wait, Amelia. This isn't fair, Martin sputtered. We serve hundreds of clients a day. Maybe there were misunderstandings. She didn't let him finish. One customer, an elderly black man, came in to inquire about a retirement account. He was made to wait for 34 minutes, while 3 younger white clients were helped immediately upon arrival. One of our auditors watched your assistant glance at the man, whispered to you, and laughed. Martin looked toward the window, jaw tight. He didn't remember the moment, but something about it rang vaguely familiar and damning. And another incident, Amelia went on, opening the next folder. A woman in a hijab entered to cash a check. She was sent away because she didn't have sufficient ID, even though she presented a valid driver's license, a company badge, and her bank card. One of your tellers even made a sarcastic comment about foreign funds. Martin tried to speak again, but no words came. And here, she said, slapping a photograph on the table, is your front security guard tailing a teenage boy out of the bank after he asked about opening his first checking account. No reason, no theft, no crime, just the color of his skin and a backpack. A heavy silence hung over the room. Across the monitor, the regional director, an older man with a crisp accent and years of corporate diplomacy behind him, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Amelia, he said carefully, these are deeply concerning findings, but perhaps there's a path forward. There is, Amelia said sharply. And it doesn't include Martin. Martin flinched like he'd been slapped. Effective immediately, she continued, her voice suddenly low. Martin Gates is relieved of his position as branch manager. His access will be revoked, his severance reviewed, and HR will conduct a compliance interview first thing tomorrow. No, wait just a minute. Martin's voice rose, his mask cracking. I've worked here for almost 2 decades. I've helped double this branch's quarterly yield. My clients, my real clients, love me. You're going to let one bad moment ruin. It wasn't one moment. Amelia cut in, her voice sharp now. It was a culture you cultivated. One where power dressed itself in prejudice and efficiency became an excuse to dehumanize. He tried to laugh bitterly. You think you understand banking. You think walking in here with a few reports and the last name makes you an expert on what we do. Amelia stood up slowly. I don't need to be an expert on everything, she said. I just need to be an expert on integrity. She turned to the regional director on the screen. You'll receive a full audit package by tonight, including hidden camera footage, customer affidavits, and teller-level interaction logs. I want the corporate board to review it. Not because I need their approval, but because they need to understand how close they came to a public scandal. Martin stood frozen, breathing hard. Amelia walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and by the way, she added, glancing over her shoulder, I wasn't here for a spot check. This branch was being considered for national flagship status, a multi-million-dollar renovation, a citywide campaign. Martin's eyes widened in horror. You just lost all of it. She pushed the door open and left. The glass walls of the Dawson First National lobby had never felt more transparent. Word had traveled faster than the bank's automated systems ever could. Customers murmured among themselves, casting stolen glances at the woman who'd been treated like a beggar not 15 minutes ago, only to reveal she owned the very building they were standing in. Amelia Dawson. The name carried weight, and now, so did the silence. She stood near the front counter, arms crossed, calm but unreadable. The grey coat was draped over a chair, still damp from the rain. Her heels clicked as she turned, scanning the faces around her. Most of the staff had retreated behind their desks, unsure whether to look busy or look remorseful. Neither would save them. Then, a voice broke through the quiet. Excuse me, Miss Dawson. It was a young woman, mid-20s, wide-eyed, and nervous. One of the junior tellers. She approached with hesitant steps. Amelia turned. Yes. The teller bit her lip. I didn't know who you were, but I read about you once. You funded that program, the one for single mothers who couldn't get traditional loans, right? Amelia nodded. That's right. We launched it in Mississippi and expanded through 6 other states. Over 12,000 women helped so far. The young woman's voice cracked. My mum was one of them. Amelia's eyes softened. What's her name? Teresa Hall. She started a catering company. It put my brother through nursing school, and I got here. It wasn't just a loan. It was ... a way out. A small, genuine smile touched Amelia's lips. Thank you. That means more than, you know. Just then, another voice chimed in, rougher, older, Ms. Dawson. A janitor in a navy blue uniform stepped forward, holding his cap in one hand, mop in the other. His face was lined with age, his knuckles scarred from decades of hard work. You probably don't remember me. I used to clean the offices at your foundation's old downtown building, years ago. I saw you walking through the halls late at night, lights still on. Never thought a woman like that would remember someone like me. I remember, Amelia said softly. You brought your daughter to work one night when your sitter bailed. She drew pictures in the break room. He smiled, eyes glassy. She's in law school now. Says she wants to build something like your microbank network. Help people like we would. Amelia inhaled slowly, keeping her composure, but her throat tightened. She hadn't come here to be praised. She had come to uncover the rot. But in doing so, she was being reminded visibly, profoundly of why she ever bothered building an empire in the first place. Asterisk, it had always been about dignity, access, fairness. Asterisk, the same values that had just been trampled on, in her own bank, under her own name. Asterisk, suddenly, the regional director's voice rang from the glass office upstairs, piped in through the intercom. Asterisk, Ms. Dawson, the board has received your full report. We support the termination of Martin Gates and recommend a full review of all senior staff at this branch. Asterisk, there was a brief murmur behind her. Some of the staff gasped. A few tried to maintain neutral expressions. Olivia, the junior teller, looked like she wanted to clap but didn't dare. Asterisk, Amelia spoke clearly so the whole lobby could hear. This is not about revenge. I don't care about bruised egos or public shame. I care about what this building stands for, and I will not let it represent exclusion, arrogance, or fear. Then she turned, slowly, toward the security guard. You were going to escort me out earlier. Asterisk, the guard stiffened. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Asterisk, what did you see when you looked at me? She asked, her voice calm but cutting. A threat, a nuisance, or just someone who didn't fit your mental checklist of important? Asterisk, I saw someone who didn't belong, he said. Honestly, that was my mistake. Asterisk, no, she said. That was your training. Asterisk, she turned to the entire room. Every one of you is going to be retrained. New standards, new code of conduct, and if you can't meet them, you won't be here. No one dared to object. As she gathered her coat, the clouds outside began to part. The sun edged through the glass ceiling, casting long golden rays across the floor tiles. She took one last look around the lobby. No one avoided her gaze this time. She had walked in invisible. She was leaving unforgettable. 2 weeks later. The polished glass doors of Dawson First National Bank reflected something new, not just a logo or a name, but change. A silver plaque had been mounted beside the entrance. Subtle, tasteful, but impossible to ignore. Greater than this branch operates under new ethical standards. All clients deserve dignity. Signed a D inside. The atmosphere had shifted. Gone were the performative smiles and the unspoken caste system that once defined who was greeted warmly and who was eyed with suspicion. The front desk had a new team. The velvet ropes were removed. Clients of every walk of life were seated the same way, no side glances, no filtered stares, just people, needing help, receiving it. And at the heart of it all, Amelia Dawson sat, quietly in the glass-walled conference room on the second floor, observing. She no longer wore the grey trench coat. Today it was a crisp charcoal suit, her hair pulled back neatly. Her presence unmistakable, but she still refused to post a portrait or announce her visits. She believed a system should work without fear, not just when someone powerful is watching. Olivia, the young teller who had approached her days ago with a quiet apology and a stronger spine, now stood behind the counter with poise. She looked confident, trained. A small pin with Amelia's foundation's symbol glinted on her collar. Amelia watched her for a moment, then turned to her assistant beside her. How's the complaint ratio? She asked. Down 7% since the reorientation, the assistant replied. Wait times are shorter. Customer satisfaction reports are well off the charts. And the new manager, Elias Monroe, former assistant from our Midtown branch, quiet but sharp, the kind who listens before speaking. Amelia nodded. She liked that, at that moment. Elias knocked gently on the doorframe and stepped in. Ms. Dawson, he greeted respectfully. We just had a client stop by, elderly woman, no appointment, didn't speak much English. 10 months ago we'd have ignored her this morning. Olivia got her sorted in under 5 minutes, and the client left smiling. Amelia smiled faintly. That's what success looks like to me. Elias hesitated, then cleared his throat. We also had someone else stop by. Oh, Martin Gates. She leaned back, her expression unreadable. Elias continued. He didn't come in, just stood outside across the street for about 10 minutes. Looked lost, didn't even recognize half the staff anymore. Then he left. Amelia didn't respond right away. She walked to the window. Sure enough, a dark BMW was parked across the street, empty now but unmistakable. He never understood. She said quietly, it was never about me. It was about the people he thought didn't matter. She let the silence hang before, turning back. Let's do something radical, she said. Let's make every branch like this one. Elias blinked. All of them. All of them, Amelia said. You don't change a culture by issuing memos. You change it by building a new blueprint and burning the old one. She picked up her tablet and pulled up a live video feed from another branch in a wealthier district. The footage showed a woman in a janitor's uniform waiting at the corner of the lobby. 10 minutes, no one had spoken to her. Start with, that one, she said, pointing at the screen. Send Olivia with you. I want a full review. Elias nodded and left, energized. The assistant followed with files in hand. Alone again. Amelia glanced out over the lobby. She could see a mother juggling a toddler while opening a joint savings account. A veteran getting assistance with refinancing. An elderly man greeted by name and offered a chair. The place wasn't perfect yet, but it was breathing. Her phone buzzed a message from her brother. A board member. Greater than heard what you did at Branch 9. Board's impressed. Dad would have been too. She didn't reply. Instead, she walked down to the lobby. As she stepped onto the marble floor, several staff members straightened instinctively. But she waved it off. Just observing, she said with a small grin. Approached a janitor who was quietly mopping near the back. Hey, Amelia said kindly. They're treating you all right here. The janitor looked surprised but nodded. Better than anywhere I've ever worked, ma'am. Amelia smiled and reached into her pocket. She handed him a prepaid debit card loaded with $500 for being the first person to smile at me when I walked in that day, she said. Asterisk, he looked confused. Wait, you were that lady in the coat. Asterisk, she just winked. Still am. Asterisk, then she walked out the same glass doors, this time, not humiliated, not ignored, but respected. And this time, the entire building knew exactly who she was. Asterisk.